The sky above the alien bazaar was filled with smoke and bright colors. Lights flashed, music played from strange speakers, and traders shouted in dozens of different languages. The market on Threxo 7 was known across the sector, full of rare tech, stolen artifacts, and creatures from every corner of the galaxy. But some corners were darker than others. Carter walked through the busy crowd, scanning stalls out of boredom. He was a human cargo pilot, nothing fancy. His ship, the Silver Dune, was old, scratched, and mostly forgotten in the backport. But it still flew, and that was enough. He wasn't looking to buy anything. He had just dropped off some rare minerals, gotten paid, and thought he'd explore a little before heading back into space. But when he turned a corner and saw a stage, surrounded by guards, he stopped. A line of beings stood on display. Some looked scared, some looked angry, others had no expression at all. Above them, a flickering sign in galactic common read, "Companions for sale, well-trained, healthy, and loyal." Carter felt something twist in his stomach. He had heard about these markets, but never visited one. He was about to walk away, when one of the sellers shouted, "Last one of the day. She's rare. Strong bloodline. Make a good servant or pet. Or more." Carter turned his head just for a moment and saw her. She was slender and tall, with light violet skin and silver eyes that shimmered like starlight. Her hair, dark and braided, fell over her shoulders. She stood quietly, but her eyes weren't dead like the others. They were watching everything. Alert, sharp, alive, starting bid, 2,000 credits. The seller yelled. Carter didn't know why he raised his hand. He had no plan. He just heard himself say, 2,000. Some nearby aliens laughed. A few others shouted higher bids. But when Carter spoke again, 10,000 credits, the laughter stopped. Even the seller blinked. "You sure, human?" Carter nodded. A few moments later, the deal was done. Carter transferred the credits. The alien girl was brought forward, and a guard placed a small control bracelet in Carter's hand. "She's all yours," the seller grinned. "Have fun." Carter didn't reply, just looked at the girl and said softly, "Can you understand me?" She stared at him, then nodded once. "Come on," he said, and walked away. She followed without a word. Back at his ship, Carter opened the ramp and let her inside. She looked around, curious but silent. He placed the bracelet on the table. "You don't have to wear that," he said. She tilted her head. Carter grabbed a universal translator and handed it to her. She put it on. After a short beep, the translator synced with her speech. "Why did you buy me?" she asked quietly. "I didn't plan to," Carter said. "I just didn't like how they were treating you." She looked at him closely. "You're letting me go?" "You're free," he said. "You can take the escape pod if you want, or stay and rest. You don't owe me anything." The alien girl blinked several times. Then something strange happened. She smiled, a wide, bright smile that reached her eyes. She sat down on one of the chairs and touched the smooth surface of the table like it was magic. "This is the first time I've been inside a ship without chains," she said. "You've been a slave long. Since I was small, passed from one hand to another. None of them ever gave me water before I asked, or a bed, or a voice." Carter sat down across from her. "What's your name?" "It's Valari," she said. "And yours?" "Carter." Valari looked around again. "Ship is old," she said honestly. Carter laughed. "It still flies." "May I stay?" she asked, surprising him. "Not as a prisoner, but just for now. I want to see more." "You sure?" "I'm very sure," she said, with a smile that seemed brighter than the lights of the station. Carter shrugged. "Then welcome aboard." He showed her the crew quarters, which were empty. She picked the bunk closest to the window. She leaned, her head against the glass, and whispered, "I've never had a window before." Carter left her to rest and went to prepare a simple meal. When he brought it to her, she looked at the plate, touched the food carefully, then took a bite. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "What's wrong?" Carter asked. "This is warm," she said. "They never gave me warm food." He sat next to her, unsure of what to say. "Thank you," Valari whispered. You didn't just buy me. You saved me. Carter shook his head. I didn't save you. I just gave you a door. You walked through it. Valari smiled again. Then, I'll stay. I want to learn. To see stars, to feel wind, to fly, and we'll fly, Carter said. And as the ship lifted from the market world and entered the stars, Valari looked out with wide, shining eyes. She had been sold like an object, but now she felt like a person again. The silver dune flew through open space like a quiet ghost. Inside the ship, Valari sat in the co-pilot seat, her silver eyes wide with wonder. Her fingers touched every blinking light, every control button, though she didn't press anything. Without asking, was like watching a child discover the world for the first time. What's that one do? She asked Carter. Opens the cargo bay, he replied, and that. Turns off life support. Don't press it, she laughed, covering her mouth with both hands. Carter smiled. It had been years since anyone laughed on his ship. Now it echoed like music through the walls. Days passed. It traveled from one small moon to another, carrying medical supplies and power cells for colonies. Carter worked while Valari watched and learned. She was quick to understand things, how to fix a broken coolant line, how to read galactic charts, and how to talk to trade officials with just the right tone. But what surprised Carter most was her joy. She was always smiling. Even when tired, even when the job was hard. She helped clean the ship, repaired broken wires, and even made a strange alien tea that made Carter feel oddly relaxed. One night, as they floated above a quiet world, Carter sat at the table looking. Over data logs, Valerie walked in carrying a tray. You forgot dinner again, she said. So I brought you food. You didn't have to, Carter replied. I wanted to. He took the tray and nodded. The food was simple, some bread, fruit, and warmed-up protein cubes, but it tasted better than anything he'd eaten in weeks. Why are you always helping? He asked after a moment. She tilted her head. 'Cause you helped me first. I didn't do much. Valari leaned forward. You gave me a name, a choice, a place to rest. I had nothing before you. He looked down, never thought of himself. As a hero, he just followed his gut. But you're free now, he said. You could go anywhere. Yes, she said softly, and I choose to stay. That answer stayed with him through the next few days. On the third planet they visited, a tall creature with golden fur looked at Valari and frowned. You, it hissed. You wear the mark. Valari froze. Her hand moved slowly to her neck, where a small symbol was tattooed, faded, and hidden under her collar. What's he talking about? Carter asked. The creature stepped closer. That girl belongs to a noble line, one that was destroyed long ago. She should not be here. Carter stepped between them. She belongs to no one. The creature growled, but walked away. Valari stayed quiet until they got back to the ship. You okay? Carter asked. Valari nodded, but she was trembling. I was born in a palace, she said quietly. But it didn't last. My family, they were overthrown. I was taken. Carter didn't speak. He didn't know what to say. I don't want to go back, she whispered. Not even if I'm royalty. You don't have to, Carter replied. You're safe here. Thank you, she said. After that day, Valari became more serious. She trained harder, studied more. She asked to learn piloting. Carter agreed, and soon she was flying the ship as smoothly as he did. One evening, after a long delivery mission, Valari surprised Carter by bringing him a gift, a hand-woven charm made from ship wires and alien thread. It was shaped like a small star. For you, she said, for guiding me. Took it and tied it to the control panel. Now it'll guide us both. Weeks turned into months. They visited planets full of sand, water, and ice. They met kind people, strange traders, and even space monks who gave them a free repair in exchange for stories everywhere they went. Valari watched, listened, and grew stronger, but word spread, too. People noticed the girl with the silver eyes and noble markings. Some whispered stories of a missing heir. Others asked questions, and a few started following them. One night, an old bounty hunter approached them in a port bar. How much for the girl? Yes, Carter stood up. She's not for sale. Sure, the hunter said. Some say there's a reward. Big one, enough to buy your own fleet. Leave, Carter warned. The hunter laughed and walked away. But the message was clear. Their quiet life was no longer safe. VAR, I looked up at Carter. They won't stop, will they? Shook his head. Not if they think you're worth money. Then I'll fight, she said. I'm not a victim. Any more? You don't have to fight alone, he told her. They left that port and changed their route, avoiding busy sectors. But the galaxy was big, and secrets had a way of traveling fast. Still, inside the ship, the air was warm. Their small world was filled with quiet strength, shared meals, soft laughter, and moments of peace. And when Valari sat in the pilot's chair, her hands firm on the controls, her eyes lit with starlight, she no longer looked like someone who had been bought. She looked like someone who had taken back her life. The silver dune drifted silently through a calm region of space. Inside, Valari adjusted the course while Carter checked their supplies. The ship was low on fuel cells and fresh food. They needed to make a stop soon. Valara didn't say much that morning. Ever since the bounty hunter incident, her smile had faded a little. Carter noticed. You're thinking again, he said. Lara nodded. I keep wondering if someone out there still remembers me. You mean your family? No, I know they're gone. But maybe someone from the old palace. Maybe someone who served them. Maybe they're alive too. Carter looked at her. And if they are, I don't know, she admitted. I don't know what I would do. A soft beeping interrupted them. A message signal came in. Carter opened the transmission. It was short, just audio, full of static. But one line came through clearly. Heir of Talvasia. If you hear this, your people need you. Valare froze. Who sent that? Carter ran a trace. The signal had come from a moon station near the edge of neutral space. An old outpost no longer under any major government. It could be a trap, he warned. Or it could be real, Valari replied. And if someone needs help, then we go, he said without hesitation. They set a new course, both quiet, for the rest of the flight. As they neared the outpost, Valari sat with her hands tightly folded in her lap. You okay? Carter asked. I'm nervous, she said honestly. We face it together, he reminded her. The outpost came into view, an old ring-shaped station spinning slowly above a blue moon. Parts of it looked damaged. Only a few docking lights still worked. They landed without trouble, but the station was quiet. Too quiet, Carter and Valari stepped out, weapons hidden but ready. They moved through empty halls, metal groaning under their boots. Then a voice echoed through a speaker above them. Valari, is that you? She stopped walking. Who are you? Ow. A door opened slowly. An older alien stepped out. His skin was deep red, and he wore a faded cloak. His eyes filled. With tears, I served your mother, he said. I was her advisor. We thought you were gone. I was taken, Valari said. We know, he replied. Many of us were scattered after the fall, but a few survived. We've been waiting, hoping. Carter stepped forward. Who sent? The message? I did, the man answered. We've been trying to find you for years, and now the people are rising. They speak your name. They want to fight back against the tyrant who destroyed your house. Valeri's heart pounded. I'm not a queen, she said. I'm just a girl with a stolen past. But your name means hope, the advisor said, and that's all we need. He gave them an old memory. Crystal inside were hidden locations of rebel camps, secret allies, and plans for resistance. If you speak, they will follow, he said. You don't have to lead an army. Just show them you're alive. Larry looked at Carter, gave her a small nod. I'll think about it, she said softly, but I need time. The man didn't pressure her. Whenever you're ready. We'll be waiting. As they left the station, Valari didn't speak for a long while. Back on the ship, she finally said, I don't want to be a symbol. I just want to live. You can do both, Carter told her. You don't have to be who they want. Just be who you are. She smiled again. Not a big smile, but a calm one. Thank you. Few days later, they landed on a peaceful trade moon to refuel and rest. The place was small, but busy with travelers. Carter handled the supplies, while Valari explored a nearby market. As she passed a stall selling old books and relics, a merchant whispered, "Are you the lost one?" Valari turned slowly. "What did you say?" "It's the heir of Talvasha walks again," the merchant said. "They say she travels with a human. Is it true?" Velar didn't answer. She just walked away, her heart pounding. Back at the ship, she found Carter fixing a panel. "People are talking," she said. "Even here." "They will," Carter said. "But remember, you don't owe them anything." "What if I want to help?" she asked. "Not for the crown, just to give them hope. Ellen will help," he said. "Together?" She reached into her pocket and took out the memory crystal. "Maybe we start with the nearest rebel camp." He nodded. "You ready?" "Not really," she said. "But let's go anyway." As the silver dune lifted off again, something had changed. Valari no longer looked lost. She looked determined, and somewhere across the stars, people whispered. Her name not as property, not as a victim, but as a sign that the old light had not yet gone out. The silver dune moved through a field of floating ice shards, gliding carefully toward a hidden moon. The place was not on any modern chart. The rebels had picked it for that reason. Small, cold, and forgotten, it was the perfect place to hide. Valar sat in the co-pilot seat, quiet and thoughtful. Her fingers lightly held the memory crystal. She had listened to all the names in it, people who once served her family, others who joined the rebellion, and locations of secret camps. But it still felt strange. She had been a prisoner for so long. Now everyone looked to her like she was something more. "You can still back out," Carter said gently. "I know," Valari replied. "I don't want to." "You're sure?" She looked at him. "I was sold like an object. Now people call me a symbol. So maybe it's time I show them I'm a person. One who can make choices." Carter smiled. "Then let's land." As they entered the moon's lower atmosphere, they sent the signal code. From the crystal, moments later, a hidden gate opened between the mountains, revealing a narrow landing path. The camp was buried in snow and shadow. Tents and shelters were built into the cliffs, with warm lights glowing softly in the cold wind. Waited at the edge of the landing zone, their weapons were ready, but their faces were filled with awe. "She's real," one whispered. "It's her." Valari stepped off the ship, her head held high. The rebels bowed slightly, not in fear, but with respect. The oldest one, a tall woman with green skin and silver armor, stepped forward. "I am Commander Selen," she said. "I served your mother. I'm not a queen," Valari said softly, "but I'm here to help." Selen smiled. "And that's what makes you one?" They walked through the camp. Children peeked out of tents. Elders bowed. Fighters stood straighter. Everywhere Valari went, people followed her with their eyes. She sat in the command tent with Carter and Selen. Maps covered the walls, showing star systems, battle routes, and supply chains. "The tyrant who rules Talvasha now," Selen said, "uses fear and silence. People don't speak unless they are told, but your return, your voice, it has shaken them." "What do you want from me?" Valari asked. "Not war," Selen said. "Just your presence, speech, a message. Something to show the people they are not alone." Valari thought about it. "I'll speak," she said, "but in my way." That night, they set up a broadcast link to several worlds under the tyrant's rule. It would be short, simple, and direct. Valari stood in front of the camera, dressed not in royal robes, but in her travel clothes, stuffed boots, a worn jacket, and a small pendant made from ship wire. Her voice was calm. "I am Valari," she said. "I was taken, sold, forgotten, but I survived. And now I return not to claim a throne, but to remind you hope still lives. Freedom is not a gift, it is a right, and you are not alone anymore." The message was sent. Silence followed, but within hours, whispers began to grow. Old flags were raised. Hidden voices returned to the streets. Something had changed. The next day, a cargo ship arrived with medical supplies sent by a secret supporter from a nearby planet. Then a group of young pilots joined the camp asking to be trained. Rebels started gathering from nearby systems, each one bringing news of growing unrest. Carter stood near the edge of the cliff, watching the camp grow. Valari joined him, a mug of hot drink in her hands. "That wasn't so bad," she said. "You did good," he replied. "They listened to me," she said, still surprised. "Not because of my bloodline, but because I tell the truth. People know when someone has walked through fire," Carter said. "And you have." Valari looked up at the stars. "Sometimes I still hear the chains in my dreams. Orcs, the cold rooms will fade," Carter said softly. "I don't want them to," she replied. "They remind me of why I do this." He looked at her with quiet pride a few days later. News came in a rebel group had freed a mining colony using Valera's speech to inspire the workers. Another world stopped sending tribute to the tyrant. A third declared support for the resistance, but not all news was good. A message arrived from a scout ship. A bounty was now placed on Valari. Several hunters were on the move. One of them was known across the galaxy, a cyber mercenary named Thrax, who never failed a job. "We have to move," Selen said. "They know this camp exists now." "No," Valari said. "If we run, people will think we're afraid. Then what do we do?" Carter asked. VLAR. I thought for a moment. "We don't run. We prepare." The camp turned into a training ground. Old fighters taught the new ones. Engineers built shields and signal blockers. Carter upgraded the ship with better defense. Valari learned to use a plasma blade and train in hand-to-hand combat. She wasn't the same girl from the market. Anymore, she was becoming something else. And when Thrax finally arrived, he wouldn't find a helpless girl. He would find a fighter. Snow fell lightly over the mountain camp. The once quiet hideout was now full of energy. Ships landed, supplies came in, and fighters trained every day. Valari, no longer a silent girl, moved with purpose. She gave orders, helped the wounded, and trained beside others like an equal. Carter stood on a high ridge, watching the horizon with a pair of scanners. Beside him, Valari approached with a soft crunch of boots on snow. "Anything?" she asked. "Not yet," Carter replied. "The bounty hunter's close." "Thrax," she said the name like a shadow. "They say he has no heart." "They say a lot of things," Carter said. "But even Thrax bleeds." They went back to the command tent. Commander Selen showed them the latest intel. Small rebel cells rising across 5 worlds. Old alliances returning. The resistance was spreading faster than anyone expected, but Thrax was moving too. "He attacked a support convoy yesterday," Selen said. "No survivors." And he left a message. "Next is the girl." Valari took a deep breath. "We face him here?" "You sure?" Selen asked. "He wants me," Valari said. "Then let him come." Plans were made. Defense lines were set. Carter worked on the ship, upgrading its weapons and sensors. Valari stood with the fighters, showing them how to move, how to listen, how to trust each other. On the 3rd day, the alarm sounded. A ship entered the sky above the camp, black, sharp, fast. "That's him," Carter said. Thrax's ship circled once before landing on a ridge nearby. The door opened and he stepped out. He was tall and armored, with half his face made of metal. His eyes glowed red, and his voice echoed like cold steel. "Send out the girl," he said through a speaker, "or I take her myself." No one moved. Then Valari walked forward, her head high, her voice calm. "You came for a prize, but I am not one." Thrax tilted his head. "You think you're special now?" "No," she said. "I think I'm not afraid of you anymore," he laughed. "Brave words, I'll break them from you." Carter stepped beside her. "You'll have to go through all of us first." Thrax pulled a blade from his back and charged. Blust fired. Rebels moved. The fight began. Layar ducked behind cover, firing carefully. Thrax moved like a machine, knocking fighters aside, breaking through defenses. But this wasn't the same girl he hunted before. This time, she fought back. She met him, face to face at the edge of the cliff. His blade swung, she dodged. Her own blade hummed to life, a gift from Selen. Their weapons clashed. Carter tried to reach her, but he was blocked by drones. Lasers flew around him. He fought hard, but his eyes stayed on VLR. I.THRAX was strong. Faster. But Valeri was smart. She remembered the training, remembered the balance, the steps. She used his size against him, moving quicker, aiming for weak spots. A deep cut opened on Thrax's side. Growled, stepping back. "You were a slave," he said. "How are you this strong?" "'Cause I survived," she said. "'Cause I chose to live." She struck again this time. Her blade hit a weak part in his armor. Sparks flew. Thrax stumbled. Carter finally reached them and fired at his back. Thrax roared in pain and fell to his knees. "It's over," Valeri said. "Finish it, Thrax." Spat. She lowered her blade. "No, I'm not like you." Looked at her with disbelief. "You'll regret this." "No," she said. "You will." Rebels surrounded him, weapons raised. They arrested him and took him away. The camp cheered. The sky seemed brighter. Later that night, Carter and Valeri sat beside a warm fire. Bruises marked their faces, but their smiles were real. "You could have ended him," Carter said. "I know," Valeri replied. "But that's not who I want to be." "You made the harder choice," he said, "and the right one." She looked up at the stars. "I keep thinking about the day you bought me, how everything changed from that one moment." "Me too," he said. "I never planned for any of this." "You didn't buy a slave," Valeri said quietly. "You gave a soul a second chance." "And you made it count," Carter replied. In the following days, more rebels joined. The victory against Thrax gave hope to even the most silent planets. Valeri's speech was replayed across hundreds of networks, but she didn't stay in one place. She kept moving planet to planet, helping others rise, not as a ruler, but as a leader, and always by her side flew the Silver Dune. The galaxy changed slowly, but it changed. Valeri's name traveled across space like a quiet song. Some called her the Lost Star. Others called her the Voice of the Forgotten. She didn't care about the titles. She only cared about what came. Next, after the fight with Thrax, the rebellion grew stronger. The bounty on Valeri was removed by fear alone. Too many hunters failed. Too many people stood up. Planets once afraid to speak now raised her flag. Not as a royal symbol, but as a sign of freedom. But Valeri didn't stay to enjoy the praise. She and Carter left quietly, just as they had arrived. They returned to the Silver Dune, now patched, armed, and filled with memories. Valeri sat in her favorite seat, the co-pilot's chair, while Carter programmed their next jump. "Where to now?" he asked. "Somewhere new," she said. "Somewhere quiet." He smiled. "You've earned it." They jumped into deep space, passing nebulae and dust clouds. For weeks they traveled in peace. Valeri read old star maps and practiced flying. Carter repaired parts of the ship he had ignored for years. They weren't running. They were breathing. One evening, Valeri found Carter in the storage room, looking at a dusty old box. Inside were a few old photos, a music chip, and a small silver pin. "Is that your past?" she asked. "A little," he said. "I was a soldier once. Didn't last long. Why not? Too many rules. Too little kindness." She touched the pin gently. "You were always meant to fly free." "Maybe," he said, "but I never thought I'd find a reason to care again till I met you." Valeri smiled. "I thought I was nothing until you showed me I could be more." They sat together in silence for a while, the ship humming gently around them. Soon, a message arrived on their private channel. It was from Commander Selen. Yes. The people of Talvasia had driven out the tyrant. The old palace had been turned into a school. Statues of kings were replaced by gardens. And in the center of the capital, a plaque had been built. It read, "To the girl who was once sold, thank you for giving us back our freedom." Valeri touched the screen. "They don't need me anymore." "That's a good thing," Carter said. "You helped them stand on their own." She nodded. "Still, I'd like to visit." They returned to Talvasia weeks later. The planet was green again. Cities were alive with color. Children ran freely in the streets. No guards. Chains. No fear. As Valari stepped out of the ship, people rushed to greet her, but not with bows, with open arms, cheers, and songs. She was no longer a mystery. She was someone they knew. Someone who had suffered and still stood tall at the new capital. She gave a short speech. "I was once a slave," she said. "Then I became a traveler, then a fighter. But today, I'm just Valari, and that is enough." After the speech, a young girl ran up to her and gave her a small bracelet made of simple beads. "For luck," the child said. "VAR. I wore it." Proudly, Carter walked beside her through the city. "They love you. They love the idea of me," she replied. "But you saw the real me from the start." He chuckled. "I saw a stubborn girl who touched everything on my ship without asking." She laughed, "And now I fix most of it." They left the city quietly the next day. No parades, no cameras, just peace. The silver dune lifted off one last time, heading back into the stars. Years passed, and the stories of Valari and Carter became legend. People spoke of a human who bought a girl not to keep her, but to set her free, and of a girl who was once forgotten, but became the spark that lit the galaxy. They never settled on one planet. They visited many, helped where they could, rested when they needed, lived fully. On one quiet world, they built a small home by a lake. Flowers grew near the window. The ship stayed parked nearby, always ready. Inside, Valari kept the silver eyes of a survivor, but her smile grew softer. Carter's hair turned gray, but his heart remained steady. One evening, as stars filled the sky, Valari sat beside him. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you walked past me that day?" she asked. "Sometimes," he said, "but I'm glad I didn't." "Me too." They sat in silence, watching the stars dance above, and in that moment it didn't matter where they came from, only where they were now, together.